How's it going, everyone? I've got a bit of a different style of video coming your way. Once upon a time I did a series called What If I Played Fire Emblem in the Wrong Way? But that kind of fizzled out, mostly because it ended up being way easier than I expected it. I discovered an upcoming game that sorta gave me an idea for a similar video, so I wanted to recap what I went through and end it with a review of my time with the game. If the review is all you want to see, then jump to this timestamp and check it out. But without any further ado, let me take you along with me on my journey to become the Godfather of Esports. Thanks to my unhealthy addiction to Smite, I've become pretty interested in MOBAs, and being able to manage an esport team seemed like a neat idea, so I booted up the demo for Esports Godfather, developed and published by Asteroid Game Studio, to see if I can forge a legacy of my own. It starts simple enough. I'm greeted with this music, which definitely won't get on my nerves later on at all, but I get to choose my avatar from a variety of what has to be the most masculine anime protagonist I've ever seen, or the short queen anime protagonist. I end up selecting one of the characters that I think my parents wouldn't shame me for picking, and I named him after the channel. Next, I get to create my own team's logo. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a decent amount of customization options in this demo, which easily puts any EA Sports games to shame. No, like, for real though, I'm tired of picking like the same 4 usable designs and logos when I play NHL, so please step it up. After messing with a custom import for some fun designs I had in mind, I ended up going a little basic with the team logo, only to come to the hardest part: the name. I tried to name them, but apparently 6 characters is the limit to the team name, so have fun with that. I then choose my assistant, which makes me realize that Procyon does indeed have more than 6 characters in his name, so that's a no-go. She gives me a personality quiz of what I think a team should be like before giving me my team, each coming with their own unique abilities. I decided to just roll with who I have instead of re-rolling, so let's just take a look at the squad. For top lane, we have Xavier. Our jungler is Thompson, so that won't be confusing at all. Our mid is Wurzburg. Our support is Asdi, and our bot laner is literally just God. We're told that in order to make it to the big leagues, we had to play through several minor leagues first. We have to accumulate enough crowd favor over 6 games in order to get promoted. So let's take a look at our opponent. Wait, they have more than 6 characters in their name? Oh well, whatever. It's time for training, and you know what that means. Considering there hasn't been a tutorial to the game at this point, let's just jump into the first game against Rat Gaming and see how it goes. We go through picks and bans, and I have no idea what I'm grabbing or banning, but as the match plays out, the mechanics start to come together. The game auto-plays for a while, and then you get a resource pool to use to play cards in your hand. If you pass your turn, you then draw a card and gain a resource every turn until you hit 8 resources. Then you get to play cards from your hand again. This took me about 2 to 3 games to figure out, so there were some awkward times where the computer just kept playing cards and I was wondering if I could ever play ever again. Cards in your hand can also get pushed out if they're not played, so there is a tactical system to that, but thanks to pure luck, I get a 3v2 in the bot lane and we end up taking out both opponents. We then get to take on our first objective, the dragon, which culminates into just whoever loses the first person loses the fight. There's a lot of nothing, and then we get to the fight over the big boy objective, the Herald. Same rules as the dragon, and we were able to take down as well. The game autoplays for a while, and we end up taking our first victory, with Wurzburg taking the MVP on a character who likes to, expose himself, I guess. But with the match over, you know what that means. We get some ability score improvements, and the players get a bonus ability on the heroes that they use, which is kind of a neat way to show expertise. Our next match is against what I can only assume is the Abstinent Jokers, but okay. Our picks and bans go the same way, with me picking the same character to ban, a snowman called Fatty White. I just assume he's good, but there's really no telling. I diversify a bit, but for the most part I'm still just kind of testing the game out as a whole. The second game comes and goes with no real fanfare, but we end up winning, with Thompson winning MVP awards with some weird Minecraft ninja character. We also discover a mechanic where our support player feels like they've reached their limit, so we have to give them a task in order for them to be able to improve their skills. Our team also is this week's team lineup, which highlights the best players at each position. We ended up winning our third match as well because of our new secret weapon. The character that I had feared the most at the beginning becomes my greatest asset, as Fatty White turned out to be a really fun hero to use. The fourth match lets me start realizing some synergies between two characters that had one of my heroes get up to 6,000 HP, but then I also learned that I need to make sure to ban a specific character on here because... Anyways, Topson gets MVP award for what has to be my favorite jungler hero, Jiangxi Qi, whose name I'm absolutely not pronouncing correctly, but whose abilities of always targeting Lucius and getting a bonus attack after defeating someone is great for winning fights. Despite their best effort, apparently Topson was beaten out for the month lineup by good old 10086, which is better than our support who was beat out by classic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our fifth match goes back and forth for a long while. So long in fact that we're tasked with the final fight and whoever wins it will win the entire game. Luckily my synergy I discovered earlier makes my tank basically have half the entire other squad's HP, but that really doesn't mean as much as I thought it did as we end up getting wiped and losing our first match. Despite that, our entire team won their roles for the week's lineup awards, so hooray? We are told that we actually qualify for the next league, however Mama didn't raise no quitter, so we have to press on for the final match. The final match was to set the two penguin squads against each other. The ban phase was probably the easiest decision I made, and despite the computer's best efforts, no one on the other team could stop the onslaught of God and Wurzburg, with Wurzburg getting MVP merits despite having lesser stats almost everywhere. But with that, we are once again greeted with this gem. We finished the demo with a 5-1 record. I have actually started to get attached to some of these team members, and I can start to see where the difficult decisions may have to be made down the road. So with that whole journey finished, let's go over what the game does well first. I think there's a really solid idea and basis for this type of game. I think a majority of the game itself is made well. As much as I made fun of the avatars, it is actually nice, and even though there was just a small hero pool to pick from, it's still pretty impressive, and that's besides the fact that the developers plan on releasing the game with over 50 heroes to choose from. Having to spend experience to expand your players' hero pools and increasing their skills is great, alongside the progression of having more abilities and buffs to heroes the more a team player plays with them. Once I got used to how the game operates, it does seem pretty great at being strategic, and I think this game has a lot of potential to be a massive success. But let's move on to things that are not done so well. Firstly, the music desperately needs to be changed. It's blasting your ears and there's only like 3 songs that cycle, each with just a repeating pattern that plays for about 3 minutes. I get that it's likely a placeholder music, but it is very off-putting, and I had to rewatch my footage on low or no volume just to be able to stand listening to it again. I think the customization options are alright, but the character limit of 6 is a bit restrictive. The lack of a real tutorial means that it'll take you about 2 to 3 games before you really get your feet beneath you. I also think the dragon and herald fights could be done a little bit better, as every attack besides one specific character just really seemed to randomly hit someone. I did notice a stat for something called presence, which I think is how likely someone is to target them. However, again, with no tutorial, it's really hard to say for sure. I think it would be beneficial to be able to have some sort of strategy go into those fights, otherwise it's just really RNG based. There are a few more gripes, but they're mostly for things that I can tell are placeholders, and they didn't really ruin my experience with the game. Although I will say that Steam lists this game with a release date in March, which I think is a little bit too soon, unless it means it's releasing to early access. Overall, this game really does have a lot of potential to be something amazing. One thing that the Steam page notes that I think is a really interesting aspect for the game is the fact that the game itself will have a meta environment that is changing, so you'll have to react to it just like any esports team would have to do in real life. Sponsors, unearthing new talent, trash-talking sessions, transfer periods, whatever it may be, it seems like Esports Godfather is really looking to satisfy anyone who likes sim or MOBA style games, and it is definitely one I'll be keeping my eye on. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another. Thanks to my patrons Relativity and Naughty Dog is King for supporting me on Patreon. I've also noticed a huge increase into the subscribers for this channel, so thank you to everyone who's done so. You guys really are the best.